Hello EFD squad and welcome back to the UCL review where me and Joe break down Europe's creme de la creme competition. And starting things this week is Manchester United versus PSG. We're going to do the statistical, the analytical breakdown of the game first, then move on to some opinion because this gentleman does have some grievances with how things unfurled, and we're going to look at those post-match comments by OGS as well, and now that gives us a little bit of insight into the problems that Manchester United face in order to be considered to become an elite side in Europe, in England yet again. But history books would actually suggest that this one, that PSG in fact had a mountain to climb.
Yeah, well, no French side had won at Old Trafford in 14 attempts, had they, coming into this one. And it was a pretty even game first half. I think they ran away with it in the second half, and experience told. But it is now the biggest margin, I couldn't believe this stat, the biggest margin that Manchester United have ever lost by at home in a European competition.
Yeah, that is
and it was
crazy.
only 2-0. United hadn't lost a home game at all in any European competition until 1997. I could not believe those statistics when I saw them on Twitter today. I don't even know whether they're correct.
What a fortress.
They sound so ridiculous, they might well be a lie. Fake news. But I've got written down here, it was at a whimper too. I think maybe that's a little bit harsh.
I might have described that.
I think we huffed and puffed, but at the end of the day, PSG were just a better side than us, weren't they? We did only have one shot on target, which is our lowest return since 2005 against AC Milan. In fact, overall, we only managed 5 shots in the first half, and that was when we were, I would say, on a sort of even keel with PSG. The 2 injuries clearly really hampered Manchester United. It took all of the pace out of our counter-attacking football, which is what we were reliant on. We struggled to get Martial into the game at the best of times yesterday, because I thought PSG did a great job marking him out, and the tactics that Thomas Tuchel implemented to isolate him and Paul Pogba worked perfectly. And when you took Martial off and you had Alexis Sanchez, comedy Alexis Sanchez on the pitch, it just really didn't work. And you lost the pace of Lingard when Mata came on as well. It was just an all-round nightmare when those 2 injuries happened.
Even having the threat of Martial was enough for PSG to retreat into their own half somewhat. They were very wary of that counter-attack until you made that substitution. They were like, okay, we're comfortable with coming 10 yards further forward.
Yeah, I think that first half, it was quite an even game. PSG weren't great either. It was quite a bore fest, really, first 45. PSG didn't manage a single shot on target in the first half. That's the first time in the Champions League that they've been shut out since Barca in 2015, which I was quite happy with going into half-time. And then I saw coming out second half, oh no, there's no Martial and there's no Lingard. And I thought PSG pushed out 20 yards and Manchester United just couldn't get out, and the experience really told. And when you can play that high, it allows players like Kylian Mbappe to just start causing havoc. He's now only the 3rd player to score in 3 consecutive games away from home in England. Can you guys at home name the other 2?
Oh, it's a tricky one.
Well, he's now contributed 81 goals and 45 assists in 160 games for club and country. If you boil that down to minutes, it's a goal contribution every 85 minutes. What is happening? Sickening.
And at this juncture in his career already, this extremely early juncture, he has as many Champions League goals as R9. Just in case, you know, on this Wednesday afternoon, you weren't questioning what you were doing with your life, enough as it was. All right? Frightening. And you know what is frightening? The fact they did this, they put in this performance without Neymar, who's obviously out with a metatarsal injury for quite some time, and Cavani.
Yes. Although I do think to a level, it helps them defensively when Neymar doesn't play. When they play Cavani, Mbappe and Neymar, I think they look more defensively exposed than when they play a 4-5-1 and Di Maria can drop in and Draxler can drop in when they're not pressing super high. But having said that, they were still excellent on the counter going forward in the second half yesterday.
Yeah, a stark comparison in terms of the defensive work when it comes to the midfield with the Liverpool game, for example, where Rabiot seemed to be doing everything. And in this game, Verratti and Marquinhos were never sort of further than 5 or 10 yards apart.
Yeah.
And they were really doubling up, hunting in pairs on United's key players, in particular Paul Pogba, who Marquinhos just saw out of the game. Despite the absence of their stars, though, still had more than double the Champions League experience of that United XI. So between them, 589 Champions League caps to United's 255. And that does allude to some of the comments that Jose Mourinho made last Champions League campaign, where he said there's not enough Champions League pedigree in this current squad. Solskjaer sort of echoing those sentiments after the game as well by saying it's not a level these players are used to playing at. So, bit of an endemic problem at the moment. You need to bring in some Champions League assured quality, don't you?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, this is a good example of the difference in man management between Jose Mourinho and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Jose Mourinho saying there's not enough pedigree in the squad. Solskjaer saying we haven't played enough at this level. It's just like subtle things where Jose's hammering a player or players in his squad, and Ole's looking more at, we're going to get to this level. And it's positivity, rather than Jose being like, well, pedigree just not got it, have we?
Yeah, less pointing of the finger, I guess, less sounding out the individuals, but still the same old problems at United. Yes. And talking of old veterans like Thiago Silva putting in an absolute shift last night, the Brazilian well and truly heroic, completing 10 clearances, which was a game high. He didn't commit a single foul, nor was he dribbled past once in this game. What a man. And Di Maria, who was booed coming off of the bus, I was told. I mean, how he is extrapolating that much of a negative reaction from United fans after being failed by LVG at Old Trafford, I'm unsure of. I thought he became the pantomime villain after he sort of faked that injury. A bit of a Jesse, isn't he? Faked that, arm injury. Is he holding his stomach? Was he holding his arm when Ashley Young sent him into the stanchion?
Oh yeah, that was funny.
I thought that's when he started to rile the United fans with his theatrics, but no, apparently booed coming off the bus, but he still created a match-high 3 chances, really the bit between his teeth second half, didn't he, on that left-hand side of the forward 3, and got 2 assists, so well done Angel Di Maria, a happy return to Old Trafford. However, for us, the game pretty much won and lost with Manchester United's inability to build up quality possession from the back, so like you've kind of intimated at various points throughout this season, Bailly, an awful distributor of the ball, lax passes 5 yards behind players, really taking the sting out of launching counter-attacks, really laboured passing from the United back 4. Even Lindelof, who's supposed to be a bit of an adept passer, not great last night.
And Ashley Young. Oh, how many times are going to say this guy's name? He cannot be representing Manchester United as a starting right back in the Champions League.
No. I mean, wouldn't get in a starting XI probably from 7 to 12 in the Premier League. So how he's being offered another year at United, at this point, is beyond me. Obviously, they want continuity off the pitch. You can see the virtues of doing that, but still a Champions League right back, a makeshift left winger who's 34 years old. Not really good enough. I wonder what Diogo Dalot thinks of that. Diogo Dalot.
Yeah, well, to be fair to Diogo, he's still very young, Diogo Dalot, isn't he? I think he's just turned 18, so hopefully, you're thinking if you're Diogo Dalot, hopefully I'm the long-term replacement. Just as much of an issue as Ashley Young is our bloody current left winger, Alexis Sanchez, who came on for 45 minutes.
Well, I've got his numbers down here, Joe.
Tell me him, because they're
0
useless.
dribbles, 0 shots, and 0 chances created in 45 minutes. Conversely, Marco Verratti, who was the beating heart of that PSG midfield last night, a supposedly 50% fit Marco Verratti, who Thomas Tuchel thought he was going to have to drag off after 60 minutes, was absolutely bossing the midfield, wasn't he? 75 passes, which is a game high, taking 32 more touches than Paul Pogba in the game. So his, midfield counterpart was also, supposedly in danger of running the show prior to the game. And PSG's, not just their individual performances, but their general shape and team play was outstanding in that 3-4-3. And it did become a sort of 3-4-2-1 at times, Mbappe just dragging your centre-halves, left, right and centre, wasn't he? But they only allowed, PSG this was, United 3 shots in the box from 10 attempts. That was less than half of their return of 7, and expected goals had this down at 0.3 to 1.9 in the visitors' favour. So United really, barely creating any chances of note.
Yeah, very, very poor in terms of our forward endeavours, but equally that was incredibly hampered by the 2 injuries to our forward line, and our shape just went out the window, I think, at half-time.
You missed Lingard's movement, like you said, missing Martial's pace, and
there was a couple of times
that emboldened PSG, didn't it?
There was a couple of times in that first half where I remember Paul Pogba skinned Thiago Silva, got to the byline on the edge of the box, tried to cut it back, not the best final ball. There was one time where we broke against them and it was a 3-on-2, and Jesse Lingard played the ball behind Anthony Martial, went out for a throw-in. Just a few moves like that, for me, were good indicators that second half we could potentially go out and harm them. As soon as those two players came off, we dropped back. PSG just experience showed and they ran us off the pitch.
Yeah, the intensity of the first 5 minutes was really good from United, and you had that clear game plan, but when you had to make those enforced substitutions, I do feel like we saw a little bit of a disparity in the tactical nous of the two managers. So OGS has done really well coming in, playing to the players' strengths, playing those wide forwards who split the centre-halves with a decent presence up front in Marcus Rashford, but I felt like you still tried to play that system with different players. I know, although Alexis Sanchez and Juan Mata both like to come in as well, I mean, Mata was kind of taking up that number 10 space where Pogba should have been, and Pogba was kind of forced more out left a little bit to an extent. So I felt like it became a little bit muddled in the final third, and you were left, playing a few hopeful long balls up there, weren't you? Maybe bringing Romelu Lukaku, and we've got the benefit of hindsight, obviously. I'm not going to take much credit for that. With more than 12 minutes to go, might have been an option. I feel like he takes 10 minutes to warm up into a game anyway. But PSG, I mean, the players in that team definitely help. They can sort of enforce those sort of changes themselves.
Yeah, I think experience tells on the pitch, whereas Manchester United struggle, like you mentioned there, to sometimes make in-game adjustments. I think maybe even more so than Tuchel, some of the experience across the PSG team allows them to adapt and realise situations. For instance, having Thiago Silva and Dani Alves in the side probably allows them to adapt in-game and realise Manchester United aren't as fast, so let's push up 10 yards. More so even than Tuchel being like, let's push up. They probably know to do that themselves, whereas you look at somebody like Victor Lindelof and Eric Bailly as a central defensive partnership, maybe they're not quite at that level to realise that in-game adjustment that's needed in the moment. So I think experience definitely told, but overall, PSG were just a better team than Manchester United on the night. There's no shame in that, I don't think, if you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
No, I don't think it's a blemish on his record at all.
No.
Completely ridiculous that people are saying, this is possibly curtailed his chances of getting the job on a permanent basis. Yeah, despite the fact it's a little bit of a makeshift PSG and Dani Alves and Bernat maybe not elite fullbacks at this point, to suggest this is a blemish on OGS's Manchester United record is very harsh. I don't think it's going to curtail his chances of getting the job on a permanent, but what may do that is if you get an absolute thumping in the return leg, of course, not going to have Paul Pogba, which changes how you transition that ball up the pitch, isn't it, entirely for the second leg, after he was the first recipient of a red card since Luis Nani against Real Madrid in 2013. Fond memories of that game.
Yeah.
Real Madrid in their green kit, Luka Modric scoring an absolute banger.
And that was, Paul Pogba's last night was probably a red card. I think he's a little bit unlucky. I don't think he means to stamp on Dani Alves. Dani Alves is quite clever and gets his body in between him. I think he's trying to himself get his body in between the ball, but it equally can't put his foot that high. It is a second yellow card and a red card offence overall. But Kimpembe probably shouldn't have been on the pitch either.
Yeah, he was riding his luck, wasn't it? Big time.
The foul on Marcus Rashford that mysteriously wasn't given, probably a second yellow card.
The refereeing was extremely inconsistent last night.
Yeah, I just didn't think it was a particularly good refereeing display overall, but I don't think it altered the overall scoreline. Look, no. Paul Pogba rightly sent off. Kimpembe potentially could have got a second yellow as well, but equally, United are going to struggle big time.
Yeah, ominous signs. None of the previous 34 teams who lost the first leg by a 2-goal margin have proceeded in this competition, so it looks like it might be lights out for Manchester United. And we've had a couple of tweets in who want to shout out the PSG Ultras. Apparently the atmosphere at last night's game was absolutely incredible. Are they our fans of the round? Well,
potentially.
There is competition because the Ajax fans were, I think, letting off fireworks outside the Real Madrid hotel, which is always, commitment to the cause, isn't it? Has this affected your opinion of Solskjaer getting the job on a permanent? Obviously, you're still pro Pochettino, but if it comes to Solskjaer, is it not your confidence in him whatsoever?
No, it's not my confidence in him. I think it's pretty much maintain the same thought process I had the whole time. If we can get Poch, we should get Pochettino. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is probably going to get the job if we can't get him. What I will say is it definitely reaffirms some of Manchester United fans' thoughts about the squad and where we're lacking players. Obviously, a right back desperately in need of an Ashley Young replacement. I also still think we need a centre half. An experienced centre back in that game does not act like Eric Bailly does on the ball. So I think we need an experienced centre-back desperately, and there are still question marks over that other central midfield position. Don't think Ander Herrera was at his best last night. I think Nemanja Matic has looked revitalised under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but as good as Herrera has been under Solskjaer, he still has his flaws. And I think if United could sign a top-level central midfielder this summer, we probably should go after one. There's also the question marks over the right wing area. There's just not really enough experience at this level to win games like this against PSG. And I think it exposed Manchester United's frailties in a big way last night in terms of the squad. It didn't expose Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's frailties. I don't think, like you said, this should be a black mark on his record whatsoever. You know, he's come in, he's done a great job, and going into the draw, when it was first made against PSG, every single Manchester United fan went, out, we're out, we're out. Especially when Jose Mourinho was manager. Absolutely no chance we're going to get turned over comfortably. I think it says a lot about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, how good the job he's done, that last night Manchester United fans went into the game thinking, we've got a chance here. We can get at PSG.
There was a real positivity around United fans.
We can get at PSG here. We really can. And I believed it too. I believe we could really harm PSG
what was
with
the
pace.
scoreline you were convinced of?
I thought we were going to win by 3 goals last night. I did. I don't know why. But equally, I thought there is every chance we can get at PSG. With the injuries they've got, there was still question marks over whether Verratti was going to be fit. There was no Rabiot in the squad. I just thought we can get at them.
As part of football, being convincing yourself that you always stand a chance.
Yeah, but I never did that under Jose. I would have gone into that game thinking we're going to get pumped 4-0.
Yeah. And I suppose, you know, having that positivity pre-match is all part of fun.
So much better.
So
can I just say, as a Man United fan,
hold you too accountable, mate.
As a Man United fan, that's the first game I've looked forward to in the Champions League for about 7 years.
Of course, David Moyes, still the last Manchester United manager to win a UCL knockout game. And on that bombshell, let's move on.
The other fixture last night was Roma versus Porto. What happened, Amal?
Well, let's blitz through this. Not hard picking out the best parts because a relatively low quality but closely fought encounter, Joseph. Roma ultimately defeating Porto 2-1. The home side carving out 4 shots, 9 of which came on target, to the Portuguese side's lowly 2. Although these stats slightly misleading as stats can be, which is why we do the stats behind the stats on this show, Joseph. So Roma's overall attacking exploits, not that impressive when you look at the expected goals. 1 to 0.4. This wasn't a classic, was it? So not many high quality chances at all, despite the Giallo Rossi forcing Casillas into 7 saves and taking 10 shots from inside the box.
Crazy that is.
So okay working it into the box, but then the deep block of Porto making blocks relatively easily.
Yeah.
And after a dull first 45 that yielded only 5 shots, which was the lowest in any Champions League game so far this season, the most inexperienced man on the field, Nicola Zaniolo, fully fledged Don already at this point. I'm convinced he's going to be an all-time great. Really grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck, didn't he? The 19-year-old prodigy stealing the show, becoming Roma's youngest ever goal scorer in the competition in the process when he grabbed his first. And then when he grabbed his brace, he became the youngest ever Italian player to score 2 goals in a UCL game, I believe. Not just a knockout tie, which when you consider, you know, the company he's keeping there, absolutely incredible stuff. And Roma actually had 7 Italians in the lineup last night, so distinctly homegrown flavour about Eusebio Di Francesco's starting XI. Porto, though, I mean, apologies for these stats. It was few and far between. Go on, take over.
Well, Porto, they're not the best side, especially away at Italian clubs. They've now lost 7 of their last 8 away games in the Champions League in Italy. The only exception coming in 1996 in a 3-2 win against Milan, one of the great Milan sides as well. So particularly puzzling, that one. There was a strong element of fortune as well about their goal. Taquino Suarez mishitting a long downfield punt like an NFL player, only for the ball to fall to 31-year-old substitute Adrian Lopez to score his first goal of the season. This is a guy who's yet to start a game for Porto, and he's been there since 2014. He goes out on loan every season.
Loves
He's
it.
a loan machine.
He's like Tom Cleverley.
Yeah, he's like Tom Cleverley, or what's that guy at Chelsea who goes on loan every year? He's been there about 15 seasons. He's always in Holland. He's a Dutchman. Central midfielder.
A central midfielder?
Oh my God.
Is it not a goalkeeper?
No. He's a central midfielder. He goes on loan every single season. If you know who I'm talking about, I've forgotten his name, please let me know in the comments below because it's going to bug me all day. But, you know, while he's been out on loan, he's not been too bad. 15 goal contributions for Deportivo La Coruña last season. Overall, a decent result for Roma. They'll be really disappointed to have shipped that away goal, I'm pretty sure.
Really disappointed.
But I'm still expecting them to beat Porto in Portugal.
Yeah, they've been fairly poor defensively recently. Of course, that 7-1 whooping by Fiorentina in the Cup, doing nothing for their confidence, although that was a slightly rotated squad. I think maybe kept a clean sheet before this game against Chievo, but no back-to-back clean sheets in a month, I believe, since sort of mid-December. So, to be expected, maybe conceding late on. Porto as well, they do exceptionally every single year to get in the round of 16. A really consistent team. Yeah. Up until that point, aren't they? But I've got to say, looking at this Porto squad this morning, I really failed to recognise, 3 or 4 names. Brahimi's still there. He was going to move, 2 or 3 years ago, wasn't he? Really promising, fast, direct winger. Pepe's back at the club at centre half.
Is he?
Casillas, evergreen at this point, but still one of their more prominent figures. So maybe they need a bit of reinvestment. Although last time I checked on them, they were doing well in the league this year. So maybe bringing through some young talent that we're not privy to. Porto fans, what do you think of the current setup? Let us know in the comments below. That's all for us on UCL Review today. Tune back into EFD tomorrow. Stick on this channel. We'll be back for Ajax, Real Madrid and Dortmund. Tottenham.
Yes.
Oh, a much more tastier set of fixtures. No offence to any Roma and Porto fans out there. Joe, anything else on that people should tune into?
Yes, I believe there's a Stat Wars going out today. Is there a Stat Wars going out today?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. And it's the first Stat Wars, the champions, is it, of the new season?
That is correct.
Oh, I believe it's Doogie Critchley versus Bobby the Seagull.
He's back, baby, the Seagull, to claim what should have been his before, I stole it off him. And then McCubbin stole it off me. Fond memories.
Bye.